You have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something. Your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever.
Stay hungry.
Hungry. Foolish. Stay hungry, stay foolish.
This is the E-Commerce All-Stars podcast, brought to you with heart by Nadimo.com.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining today's podcast with your host Brandon Moscow, of course. And today I'm excited. I've got Dave Diamond on the line. He's the director of Color Blocker and founder of Zumi. How are you doing today, Dave?
I'm great, thanks, Brandon, and thanks so much for having me on the show.
Well, I've been chatting with you a bit here, back and forth online, and I'm looking forward to talking today with you. I was hoping you can give people a little bit more of a background on yourself, just so they know, a little bit more about who you are and what you've accomplished, because it's quite a bit actually. And then we'll get into the topic of hand today.
No problem. So I'm down here in Australia, which is at the moment the weather's the sun's starting to come out, which is great. But just to give you a little bit of a background, I've been in e-commerce now for probably about 7 to 8 years. I was in advertising before that. Left to go traveling the world for a bit, came back and was like, this e-commerce stuff's pretty exciting. I was always into, sourcing products online. So ended up setting up Color Blocker, which was selling, small iPhone accessories online. Ended up doing quite well back in the day when you could buy something for $1, sell something for $19 via any deal site. And that got me going. So after that, ended up, testing pretty much any kind of e-commerce platform out there, because I'm a bit of a sucker for technology and software. I ran Color Blocker, formed a partnership with a great person over in China, which is a big help. And while I was actually running Color Blocker down here in Australia, my brother, who used to work in banking at the time, just came into my office one day and said, can I work in your space? I've got an idea. His idea was to create this company that would offer instant finance at checkout for e-commerce stores. And I was like, that sounds amazing, mate, but you pretty much got to be a bank. And time went on. A few months later, he's got 6 people in the office. Things are starting to pick up, and he asked me to join the team to help with integrations for the e-commerce platforms. And I said, yeah, no worries. Sounded pretty interesting, even though I wasn't into fintech. So joined them, helped them with their growth, and 18 months later, they had 115 people running Zip Money, and I just kind of saw how online payments for stores could be a huge part of conversion optimization. And it's payments is something that people don't really consider exciting, but after working there and seeing what Zip has done for thousands of e-commerce stores, I thought, I've got to share this with the dudes out there, because it's something that shouldn't be overlooked.
Yeah, no, and that was the thing that you had sent me an initial message, and you mentioned that, and I thought it was kind of cool, because I'm like, yeah, what's funny about a lot of the things in e-commerce is some of the often not talked about pieces, which a financing option on the site or payment processors or that sort of thing. A lot of the time, those are just kind of forgotten parts, because a lot of companies that build these e-commerce sites, for example, for people, a lot of them focus on web development or that sort of thing, and they don't really focus on necessarily payments and transactions. Or you look at the common conversion tips and tricks that are out there, and when you look at those, a lot of the focus is on the getting them to buy. And not necessarily at the end of the transaction process, like, have these people with smiling faces, and I'm not gonna lie, I do it on my own personal site, but smiling faces, and they're looking at the words that you want them to be looking at, and that type of thing, and all those little tips and tricks, and they can all help. But at the end of the day, there is something to be said about what you're talking about there, in my opinion, and I really like the fact that it really essentially focuses on the very last part of the transaction, which is the checkout. And I could be wrong about that because I mean I know it's in other places as well, but that's why I wanted to have you on and I wanted to talk to you about that end of things. So I'd love to hear about some of the things that you learned and about conversion optimization in regards to the payment options and those types of things.
Yeah, sure. No worries. So look, I'm also, come from a graphic design and, conversion optimization background, often spend a bit too much time on tweaking, product pages and, having a look at, what color buttons are going to work and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, if people, don't know or don't have the payment option at the end, they're not going to purchase. So, it's about giving them the option. And what Zip has actually offered is a buy now, pay later solution. So people can actually buy something today and pay later. They get the product straight away. The merchant pays them the same day, and they get to pay over time, interest-free, monthly, fortnightly, however they want to. So that's instantly at checkout. So it's pretty much a risk-free solution for merchants. It's a great way to convert browsers to shoppers. So anyone that would have, just been, having a look at some of the products on your site, considering something, but, umming and ahhing, you take them on this customer journey. You tell them like, hey, you can get this today. You don't have to pay for it today. You can pay over time according to your budget. And yeah, it's yours. So it's a really clever way. The other thing is, you've got solutions like PayPal, Amex, credit card, and we tend to assume that, everyone out there has got a PayPal account, or people just like using credit cards online, but that's actually not the case as well. So offering a multiple payment solutions is a pretty big factor. And people kind of tend to think that more options is not a great idea. But at the same time, you're giving those options for anyone, so you're not blocking people from actually checking out, which is a pretty cool thing. And just from working with a lot of stores, integrating Zip, which is literally a few second process of setting it up. It's been quite amazing just seeing the success, and how the customers are appreciating it and how the merchants are really making the most out of it as well. And at the same time, there's some pretty cool things that I've personally used, some conversion tactics and even marketing tactics for some of my own stores since working at Zip. Things like even using your payment solutions within your SEO strategy. So just to give you an example, if you're a store, people often ask, like, how are you meant to compete with some of the big box retailers out there? There's people, they've got the stock, they've got the power, the ad budgets and all that. I'm more of a organic kind of guy, so focus on SEO. And if you go the long tail route, like, using that payment solution within your keywords, whether it's like a pay later for the latest TV, interest free, online, and really kind of focus on that, buy now, pay later for, a gaming console or whatever product it is, check out today with nothing to pay. for your new bed, whatever, and people are actually typing that in to Google because people are looking to buy specific products with easier ways to pay, or with an interest-free option. So the people that actually end up coming to your site are exactly who you want. You're going the Longtail way, so it's easier to rank for those terms, and it's been surprisingly successful from my experience. So that's been great. And some of the other things we've seen work is using the payment method within your marketing strategy. So like your abandoned carts, having emails go out, maybe the second, third email saying, hey, did you still want this product? You can get it today with nothing to pay. Check out with ZipPay, interest free. And it's pretty exciting to see the results. So, and then you can even introduce that into your Facebook retarget marketing strategies as well. Someone's had a look at, a product on your site. It could be a product that's $50, $100, $1,500, whatever it might be. And they're still thinking about it. They've had a look at some of the other shops. If they come across an ad, you can have an ad saying, buy this today and pay later with Zip. It's another great way of just, using those payment methods, that payment solution in your overall strategy. And it's funny how payments can be an exciting thing, which is something I never thought of. I'm not a finance guy at all. Was never into fintech, but it's something that shouldn't be overlooked for any e-commerce store owner.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Nowadays, it's a lot easier for your everyday e-commerce site to implement these types of things. And one of the things that I had never thought of, which is you just talked about, which is the Longtail SEO methods with your payment options. I mean, that's really something that I never even thought of that. Now, I'm not necessarily your SEO guy either, but wouldn't have thought about. I've often been asked, well, what are some of the long tail keywords you want to target, and I'm like, because I don't think about things like that. But that's a great thought process there to start following as well. But one of the other things that you mentioned was using it for abandoned carts and the abandoned cart email process that goes out, which people should have in place. A lot do, a lot don't, but those who do have that automated process for cart abandonment, I mean, adding something like that is always a nice way to bring them back. And like you said about retargeting, that's a great way too. The one thing that you mentioned in the very beginning, I didn't want to interrupt you because you had some good thoughts going and stuff, but the one thing that you mentioned there was having multiple payment methods. And you're right, a lot of people do discourage having too many. And in some cases, it's for good reason. It's just the same as if you have too many shipping methods. I mean, all of a sudden you can start having a checkout form that gets too long, and so it starts. And that's one of the main reasons for cart abandonments as well, is that the process for checkout takes too long. And so when you start adding in, okay, say I should have all the shipping options, and say I should have all the payment options and all of these types of things all on the site, on the checkout. Next thing you know, you have this long form, and so there's a delicate balance in there. And I mean, I run site audits on a daily basis for clients, and one of the things that I focus on is, well, what are the payment options you have in place? And actually, one of the things that I look for is exactly that. And what we do is, obviously we try and look for a balance between how many form fields you have, but also what are the options, because it's proven. I mean, there's science behind all of the evidence here is there, but there's the science behind it as to which payment options are more beneficial and that type of thing, and which security badges you have on your site are noticeable to people. I mean, because some of them you don't need to have them all, but it's critical that you have certain ones, and so I'd like to hear some of your personal experience with regards to what you mentioned in regards to like, did your conversion rates go up when you put Zip in, and how did that happen for you?
Yeah, it's really funny you mentioned that, because I get pretty anal when it comes to design. I'm all about branding, and putting widgets on your site and things like that has made me uncomfortable. But the big thing here is about educating your customer all along the way, and informing them that there is this option at the end. And I actually, that was one thing that I spent a lot of time umming and ahhing about. But you get these really nice widgets that you can place next to the your buy now buttons that just you can click on. It gives a customer a brief overview of how it works. It doesn't distract them at all. The trust signs, I think they're becoming a little bit cluttery. People shop online. If you've got a Shopify store that works, has an SSL, things like that, good FAQ page, shipping terms. I think that pretty much covers it. You don't need to cover your page in all these badges. Definitely agree with you about, the shipping options. And you need to be transparent and upfront straight away. When it gets to the checkout, I'll just say a couple of things that, it really depends on your demographics. So that's one thing to think about. PayPal might not be, a popular one for your customers, but, millennials now, especially in Australia, are starting to ditch the credit cards, and they're looking for something that they can trust. They want a digital payment solution that works for them. It's transparent, and that's where companies like Zip have really taken on the banks. There's another company, Afterpay, which is they do a kind of reverse lay-by, split your payments into 4 months. It's a pay later solution as well, focused more around the fashion kind of industry. But definitely thinking about your demographics. The other great thing I should definitely mention is that you can get your Zip account at checkout instantly by signing up through your Facebook account. So it ends up being linked straight away. And the beauty of that is that people no longer have to enter their credit card details when they get to that checkout. They literally just have to either sign in, or they're already signed in with their Facebook account, and bang, they've got the product, and they've essentially paid for that purchase, which is removing all the friction. And as long as they know about that, and you've informed them that this is an option right from the beginning, or using whether it's banners or pop-ups, saying you can now pay later using Zip, and you can even chuck in discount codes, check out with Zip, get $10 off today and pay later. Things like that really help boost that conversion. So I'm definitely going to agree, and you got to watch out for those fields. Even that, that default company name field that's like kind of set up like that just drives me absolutely mad. And I'm definitely in love with Shopify. They have some huge benefits, and they've got some great apps. When it got to their checkout, it did piss me off for a long time. But they've done the testing, they know what works. So it's apart from that company name default, got to make sure they enter the phone numbers. But when you get to the payment method, the selection there, it's really you're not gonna see drop-offs when you're offering a multiple range of payments. If anything, you're gonna see the increase, because you never know what people want to use when they come to that checkout. And just by adding PayPal is not gonna turn people away that want to use their credit card. If anything, people who don't want to use their credit card will only check out if there's PayPal. And same goes for the options like Zip, the pay later solution, which is definitely going to get people to check out there. So removing all as many fields as you can. Even if if your site's on a different platform, checkout fields are a big thing to look at. But being upfront, and as I said before, educating the customer from the beginning, how much it's going to be to ship it. I always go saying, free shipping for anything, but obviously, not everyone can do that. But letting them know what the rates are, letting them know how they can pay from the beginning. So that's already in their minds by the time they get to the cart. So it's definitely a booster. I haven't seen any drops in the conversion at all. In fact, I think people kind of start, looking at all these, new kind of hack apps that they've got to like add countdown method, these countdown timers, and it could be McAfee seals and Verizon and anything like that. Just splashing them all over the checkout, which looks pretty dodged for me. And you want to stick to your brand. I think nowadays it's all about branding, and you need to make sure you really kind of stand out with the branding. And then as I said, being honest, upfront, transparent is the way to go.
Yeah, I would agree with the honesty and transparency entirely, because of the fact that, I mean, I'm not a fan of those, the countdown timers and those things. They work very well.
Yeah, they do.
Don't get me wrong. And if that's your target demographic that you need to push them to make that decision quickly, then fine, by all means. And if that's part of your branding and the way you want your brand to be portrayed, then absolutely go that route. But I guess where I fall back on is I want my customers to be longtime customers. I don't want them to feel like they were forced into buying within a certain time frame, and then they find out later that if they went back to the site, they get the same deal, and the counter starts again, or whatever the gimmick may be. But in the same vein, I'm more about this being, like you said, upfront and honest, and educating them throughout the process is absolutely great advice. So on that note, I was wondering if you can share with everyone how they can get a hold of you and any final words of wisdom.
Yeah, sure. No worries. Well, I'm on LinkedIn. You can check me out there. Just Mr. Dave Diamond, and you can hit me up via my LinkedIn profile. I'm also I've got my own website that I've been trying to get going. So that's just davediamond.co. But my main site at the moment, Color Blocker. So it's colorblocker.com.au. You can see what we're offering there, which is providing drop ship merchants a pay later solution, which is risk free with that Zip payment method, so they can sell products to their customers, pay over time. Just a couple of things there that I completely forgot. And for the merchant side, it's a great way to increase your average order value using a pay later solution. And it definitely drives repeat business as well. So that's something that I completely forgot to bring up. But average order value is a big thing. Some tips of
metric that people need to pay attention to, actually. So I'm glad you mentioned that. that average order value. The higher that average order value is, I mean, that's if I were to measure a site, there's a couple key metrics, and that is absolutely one of them. What is your average order value, and what is your cost to acquire a customer? Those are the two first things to kind of look at. So thank
Definitely.
you for that advice.
Yeah,
And
yep.
continue there with, sorry, I cut you off, but
Yeah, no worries. And definitely, check out zip.co. So that's the payment solution. They integrate into most platforms. It's an Australian-based one that is similar to, I guess, you got the Klarna in Europe and some stuff like a firm in the States. But some tips, some things I've just kind of come across lately. So yeah, I've gotten into this SEO stuff, which I never thought I would be interested in, but something that's definitely working as well is, just having a look at what Google is telling you. So, Google's, their auto completes when you're typing in, keyword terms. Just, really look at those. Look at what your competitors, the big guys, are paying for, and what their keywords are, what titles they're using, and just use what they're using, because they've obviously done some testing and they know what works. So, go with that kind of stuff. That's been, big wins for us. And these are all ways of, kind of getting some free traffic. I've also seen using sites like Quora. These days content is, everyone's like, content, which is something I'm trying to get my head around, how people just push it out. But, even answering questions on Quora, being honest and truthful, not spammy, but, linking out to if people are asking where they can pay later for, the latest iPhone, and, linking in there, sites like Reddit. But there's a lot of ways, even joining Facebook groups. There's heaps of ways you can get free traffic. So, you don't always need to spend on advertising. And if you're not a kind of social guy, big on Instagram, there's lots of ways to do it. But yeah, there's definitely don't forget about payments. It might sound boring. People said, you worked with an interest-free company, and I usually say, yeah, I did lose interest, but I definitely didn't lose interest. Yeah, more excited about the payment methods and how it's helping, thousands of merchants out there today.
right on. Well, thanks, Dave. It's been a pleasure to listen to you today and chat with you.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for having me on, and being a big fan, and thanks again.
You have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something. Your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever.
Stay hungry.
Hungry. Foolish. Stay hungry, stay foolish.
This is the E-Commerce All-Stars podcast, brought to you with heart by Nadimo.com.